Golden State Media Concepts television podcast dives headfirst to the world of cord cutting. Want to be on the loop of what's hot in Netflix? Or if it's not a preference, what about original shows in Hulu? We've got you covered. Join us as we fill in the blanks and talk about movies to stream and what show you should be binging. This is the Golden State Media Concepts television podcast.
Greetings, good people of the planet Earth and the known universe. You're listening to GSMC's television podcast. It's your Captain Keith speaking. And on deck today, we have Homecoming, which is a new Amazon Prime original TV series starring Julia Roberts and Stephen James and Bobby Cannavale, executive produced by Julia Roberts as well. And season 2 of FutureMan off of Hulu. So, and if we can squeeze something else in, then we will. But we're going to go with those two things for today. Oh, yeah. So let's get into Homecoming off of Amazon Prime. So where do I start? Okay, so it's interesting because I just assumed this was going to be like an hour-long series, hour-long episodes, and that's not the case at all. They're just half-hour episodes. But I'm glad they did it that way because the show was just, well, I'll talk about that in 1 second. Let's get into the synopsis, and then then we'll talk about what I think of the show and the feel I have of the show when I'm watching it. So here is the synopsis of Homecoming. Heidi Bergman, played by Julia Roberts, is a caseworker at the Homecoming Transitional Support Center. It's a Geist group facility helping soldiers transition back to civilian life. Walter Cruz, played by Stephen James, or Stefan James, not quite sure, is one of these soldiers eager to begin the next phase of his life after coming back from the war. Overseeing Heidi and the facility is Colin Belfast, played by Bobby Cannavale, an ambitious company man whose manic demands point to questionable motives. 4 years later, Heidi has started a new life, living with her mother, Sissy Spacek, and working as a small-town waitress, when the Department of Defense auditor, Shea Wigham, comes to her with questions. And Shea Wigham plays Thomas Carrasco. So, and Bobby Cannavale is Colin Belfast, like you said, and Stefan James is Walter Cruz. And of course, Julia Roberts, Heidi Bergman, I already said that. So, okay, so that's the main cast. Oh, and there's one more person too I want to talk about in the cast. And his name is Jeremy Allen White, who plays Joseph Schreier. Man, you know Jeremy Allen White if you've watched Shameless, the Showtime TV series. He's lit on that show. So when I saw him, I'm like, oh, I recognize that guy. So yeah, he's on this TV series. So he's pretty good too. So that's the synopsis of what's going on. So when you see the trailers on Amazon Prime, you're like, well, what's going on? What are they doing to those soldiers? So so far I'm 3 episodes in. So I'll be watching the 4th episode. I'm probably going to binge and finish that tonight. Just keeping it real with you. I'll be done with this first season soon. I already know that because I'm hooked already. It's just really cool that you have Academy Award winning actresses and Golden Globe winning actresses doing original series for streaming platforms. So I never saw this coming 10, 20 years ago. So this is just great. I love it. So when you watch this show, when it starts off, you're like, okay, well, what am I getting myself into? Well, you don't know what to expect. Like I said, when I first started watching the show, I thought it was going to be like an hour per episode because most of Amazon Prime's TV shows are that way. Okay, but after watching it after a half hour, they know just how to hook you in because the way each episode ends is just kind of creepy and dry and dark, but compelling. So I'll start off by saying that in regards to how it ends each episode. So Now let me go into the episodes. Let's see. So the first one's called Mandatory. It's the, so like it says in the synopsis, it's a transitional support center. It's a haven for veterans here. They understand their military experience and try to get them to adjust to civilian life. So that's what they tell the soldiers who come in there. And Walter Cruz is very trusting. He definitely wants to be better. He wants to, go back into American society and assimilate, just reintegrate properly. He doesn't want to be all messed up from post-traumatic stress disorder or any other types of, or just violence or just anything. He just wants to be a part of regular life again, whatever that is for him. And Heidi Bergman she's guarded. She's nice. She cares about what she's doing. She cares about helping these soldiers transition over properly. So when she meets Walter, there's definitely chemistry. They connect. Walter opens up to her. Walter Cruz is probably the most open soldier out of all of the soldiers that she's dealing with, or at least that we're allowed to see. Let me say that. So now, in the first episode, when Walter comes in, she greets him, shakes his hand, has him sit down in her office, and she goes over the paperwork and tells him what they do there and how it's supposed to work. And like I think there might be like 3 guidelines they have to live by. And by the time that she's done explaining it to him, they're both laughing about it. And Walter, you like him immediately when you see him. You really do. So now, Heidi's biggest problem, she seems to have 2 problems. She likes her job. She's guarded, but Walter, unknowingly and indirectly and inadvertently, he chips away at her guard, from what I can see. And she's not even aware of it yet, but she definitely likes him. And she definitely cares about the job, and she cares about the soldiers. Now, Heidi's biggest problem is 2. She's got a boyfriend played by Dermot Mulroney that I don't think she's like the saying says, she's just not that into you. Yeah, that's the vibe you get when, there's a term they use in dating when people are just too desperate and overzealous about being in a relationship or being into someone. The term is thirsty. So, Dermot Mulroney's character, let me make sure. But that's who it is. I'm just trying to find his character's name because he plays Heidi's boyfriend, Anthony. Yeah, he's just really kind of thirsty and desperate. So, and you just get the impression that when you see Anthony and Heidi interact, in that first scene in her apartment, or I think house actually, she just you get the impression that he was only supposed to be there temporarily. He helped her move, and I think she felt like she got stuck with him. And Anthony's all about them going to the next level, and I got the feeling that she was about to break up with him when he said something that was kind of nice to her and flattering that caught her off guard, that just made her accept the relationship. So she seems like she's kind of, when it comes to her personal life, that she's a little bit numb, and the only thing she looks forward to is working and trying to help out these soldiers. So that's cool. So that's the one problem she has. Her other problem is her boss. Wow, Colin Belfast. This guy is a piece of work. He never sees her in person, at least not yet. He's always calling her at inopportune times or whenever he wants. And just basically he's calling her so she can hear him talk. He doesn't call to listen. He calls and he asks her for results, wants to know how things are going, but he's never interested in what she thinks. He hired her and assigned her to do a job. And why would you hire somebody to work for you and not listen to them about the feedback about what they're doing for you? That's just stupid. So, Bobby is one of those guys. He doesn't think he's sexist, but he is. And it just shows in how he deals with Heidi's character over the phone. When she uses the term, wanting to take a holistic approach to what they're doing, he just kind of insults her, like, why would you even use that word holistic? If I use that word, I'll get laughed at. I'm paraphrasing what he said. But Colin definitely wants to, he's ambitious. He wants their program to work. But it's all about what he thinks. It's like he calls Heidi to be his sounding board and not someone who's working for him, who he respects her input, because she's in the field every day, basically on the front line dealing with people. When I say front line, just face to face with people, it's one thing to designate orders. I mean, and it's good to have the ability to designate your expectations in regards to your leadership style, in regards to what you want to have accomplished and done and executed. But it's another to just designate, not follow through, and not be a man or woman who leads by example. In my opinion, a good leader never asks you to do anything he or she hasn't done or won't do themselves. People have more respect for you when they see that you're not afraid to get down in the dirt and work with them. So, it's really interesting and riveting watching Colin talk to Heidi on the phone, and how, he's just rattling off what he thinks and, feedback she's given him or news he's heard, and jumping to conclusions without asking her. He never asks her what she thinks. And then she has to, struggle to get words in edgewise in regards to what she thinks about what should be doing, what they should be doing there. So, like, for example, you find out that, so they're medicating the soldiers, but the soldiers don't necessarily know what type of medication they're taking. So now, mind you, Walter's there because he wants to get better. Walter wants to reintegrate. Walter's very trusting. He's a soldier. He's been through it, but he still has optimism and trust in his heart, which is nice to see, especially for someone who came back from combat, because when you think of someone coming back from combat, you don't necessarily see that as a picture. Not saying that you shouldn't. You just don't necessarily see that, especially like on television or in film. So that's what's going on with Walter. Now, his best friend, is Schreier. And what's his first name? Joseph Schreier. They're in the field together, in combat together. And Joseph is just not as trusting. Joseph has been at the facility longer than Walter. So Joseph's like, how do you know we're in Florida? Because, Walter's like, oh, yeah, I'm in Florida. This is great. I love it here. I'm looking forward to us, moving on and getting better. And Joseph's like, man, basically he's saying, don't believe the hype. They tell you it's Florida. You see the palm trees, but you don't know for a fact that it's Florida. I don't know where we are. I don't trust these people. I'm not taking the drugs. I think we're trapped here. And of course, Walter's like, well, why would you think that? We can leave anytime we want. So, Walter's really trusting. So basically, Joseph convinces Walter, or vice versa, I'm not quite sure who convinced who, but they decide to go to the front office and see if they can, leave for the day, take a trip. So when they ask the front desk receptionist about, being able to leave, she's like, well, let me see if there's paperwork for that. Let me go look for that. Can you hold on right here? 1 second, I'll be right back. So she lies and tells them there's paperwork they have to fill out before they can leave. But then she gets on the phone. She doesn't look for any paperwork. So Schreier sees that, so he tells Chris, hey, man, this has been bull crap. Schreier grabs the keys from her front desk and hops into one of the working vans, homecoming vans, and he and Cruz drive off, and they're gone like all day, cruising. They wind up getting to a small town that looks really creepy. I mean, when you see this town, it looks like it's a ghost town. You're like, what's going on here? So I'm watching the show thinking, is Schreier right? Are they not in Florida? What's really going on? We'll talk some more about what they find after this break.
Want to know the latest and hottest music hitting the airwaves? Don't be left out. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Music Podcast. Keith keeps you on the loop with everything you need to know from pop, rock, hip-hop, and the top 40. And we'll throw in news of your favorite artists, concert and tour dates, and so much more. Listen no further, because this is the gold standard in music podcast.
And once again, you're listening to Golden State Media Concepts Television Podcast. This is your Captain Keith speaking, talking about the new series Homecoming off of Amazon Prime, original series. So, as I was saying, Cruz and Schreier, they get to the small town, and it looks like a ghost town. It looks like one of those nuclear experiment towns where nobody's there. And they see this guy coming out of shadows, and they just start going after him and attacking him. And they realize he's like an old janitor guy. And then they stop. And then the next thing you know, we're back at the office where Heidi and Walter speak when she does a report with him or briefing to see how he is, how he's doing. And you find out that basically he just finished telling her the story about what happened to him and Schreier. And he's like, oh, it wasn't Schreier's fault. And I'll take responsibility. Is there going to be any punishment for us for what happened? So that was interesting. And he tells her, hey, we found out that, he was a nice guy, and, we apologized, and he's a Navy vet. So we just bonded and talked to him about being in the military. And we got back in the van and went back home. And Schreier's fine now. He realizes that we are in Florida and everything's fine. So I'm thinking when I'm watching the show, Schreier was right. You guys just don't see it yet, the other shoe hasn't dropped. So then Heidi gets a phone call from Colin, her boss, and he's like I said, he's always calling her, and it's like he just calls to hear himself talk. It's just really kind of annoying. And he's like, hey, what's going on? And she's like, hey, everything's fine. Schreier's fine. He's back. And he's like, hey, you need to get rid of Schreier. Well, before that, he says, so I forgot to tell you. So there was a scene earlier where Schreier caused a scene in the lunchroom cafeteria after talking to Walter. Because he's just like, this pineapple, why are they feeding us this pineapple? But I need to smile and say, hey, this pineapple's good, this food is good, but I don't trust these people. Because you see Schreier take the pill that they give him every day, and he spit it out in his hand at the lunch table. So he had them thinking that he was taking the medication, but he's not. So that's going on. And, Joseph Schreier. So after he says that, because Walter's like, hey, man, everything's good, we're fine. And then Joseph's like, Schreier's like, you know what, just forget it. Everything is fine. You're right. Everything's great. He starts eating the food real fast. Oh, this is great. Oh, it must be pineapple. Then he gets up on top of the table and goes, and he starts asking everybody, all the soldiers eating in the cafeteria, where are we? Are we really in Florida? He just starts wigging out, causes a fight. So when we see Colin call Heidi like the first time, he's like, what happened? It's like, hey, everything's under control. Sorry that happened. He goes, look, you need to just reassign him. Walter and Joseph, Schreier and Cruz don't need to be roommates anymore. And Heidi's like, I don't know if that's a good idea. He seems to, he's very close to Walter. And, I don't know, we should, to unsettle him that way. And Colin's like, hey, this is our protocol. You know what the protocol is. Just get it done. So it's like, okay. So Walter gets moved out of Joseph's room, and then the person who works at the homecoming facility, who's overseeing Walter leaving the room, tells Joseph Schreier while he's sitting down in his bed, tonight we're gonna keep you locked in here. And Joseph's like, well, whose orders are that? Who's that coming from? And the guy just says it again. Okay, so first and foremost, nobody wants to be locked in a room. And why would you like a vet in the room who may have PTSD? Why would you even think that was a okay thing to do. So what we're finding out is that Colin really is clueless. He doesn't care about the soldiers. He just cares about numbers. He's a sociopath, and he's narcissistic, and he's sexist, And Bobby Cannavale, he's doing a great job with this role. So I have to give him credit for that. And it's just interesting because, I guess I just never really noticed these things, earlier in my life. But as a guy, it's just a lot of times it's just not things I think about. But anybody can have a bad boss. But he's a bad boss for a few reasons. Like I said, he's all about results and numbers. He doesn't care how you get there. And he doesn't listen to, his coworker. He doesn't listen to his subordinate. He doesn't listen to his employee who's working for him, who sees things that he doesn't see. Like I said, she's just a sounding board to him. So it's basically a waste of her time. And it's another way for her to feel powerless, because once he says, this is what we're going to do, this is what we're going to do. Because she didn't want to remove Walter Cruz from Joseph Schreier's room as bunkmates. Because, we're finding out that Walter Cruz might be the only thing keeping Schreier calm. Because, he gets kind of combative a little bit. So, but once again, like I said earlier, he's been at the Homecoming longer than anybody else. So now, I told you about how Heidi doesn't like her boyfriend. That's interesting. So, like I said, he's a little thirsty. He's trying to hold on to something that's not really there. So, good old Anthony, played by Dermot Mulroney, Mulroney does a great job. So that's going on. And let me see. Since we're getting to it. The second episode is where that happens, where Schreier freaks out in the cafeteria. And, Colin decides, okay, yeah, we're going to move Walter out of there. We're going to isolate this guy and see what we can do. So we talked about the first time Colin calls Heidi. Second time he calls her, he's like, okay, so these guys snuck out. Schreier needs to go and his friend needs to go too. So Heidi's like, okay, well, yeah, maybe Schreier can go, but no, not Walter. Walter wants to be in the program. Walter felt guilty. Walter felt like he had to protect Schreier and make sure that he was okay. He felt obligated to go. She's like, we can do real work with Walter. You can get real results. Don't do it. So it was cool to see Heidi actually stick up to Colin for the first time. Colin's calling her from his daughter's birthday party. He came home for her birthday party. She face painted him with makeup. Then he went outside to walk down the street to talk to Heidi. And he missed, his daughter being sung happy birthday to her, but from her mom and all her friends. So he runs back in there, and the mother's giving him this disapproving look. His wife. And I'm just cracking up like, yep, there you go, because it's all about you. You're not, he's just too self-absorbed. So what we also find out is that, years have passed. So we see that Heidi's been working at the Homecoming Center, but now they also jump to the future. She's no longer there. She's a waitress at a small diner. We don't know what happened with the Homecoming facility, at least not yet. It's going to unfold. Thomas Carrasco comes to the diner to pretend like he wants some food. Heidi comes to wait on him. And he's like, hey, I'm with I'm with the Department of Defense. I'm an auditor. And I have some questions for you about the Homecoming. You worked there? She's like, yeah, I did. So she's like, well, come see me in a few minutes outside and I can talk to you. So she goes outside on a little break, or a brief break, to talk to Thomas, played by Shea Wigham. So this is Julie Roberts once again as Heidi Bergman. And Shea Wigham is Thomas Carrasco, the Department of Defense auditor, or case auditor. So he's like, yeah, someone's filed a complaint about what happened at the Homecoming facility. Can you tell me something? What do you worked there from a certain time? She's like, yeah. What can you tell me about it? He's like, well, I worked there. We were helping out soldiers. Can you tell me anything else? And Heidi's like, no. Do you know Walter Cruz? And she's like, no, I don't know that name. She starts to clam up a little bit, and she doesn't really say too much. But Thomas could tell that something's wrong. Just can't figure out what it is. So he's just, he can't put his finger on it, but he knows something's going on. So he lets her go back to work, and he just keeps on trying to investigate. He tells his boss, who he catches in her office, she's breastfeeding. He's like, "Oh, I can come back." She's like, "No, I'm finishing up." He tells her what's going on and how he met Heidi. Oh, so before he talks to his boss, because he got that strange vibe from Heidi, then he goes and he calls Walter Cruz's home. He finds out where Walter Cruz lives, calls the house. A woman answers, and he tells her who he is. And she's like, "Well, what do you want?" She's like, "That case." She's like, there's nothing to talk about. And then, of course, Thomas tries to push a little bit more. And it's like, "Well, who are you?" And he's he tells her what's going on. Or he tells her that a complaint was filed, and that he spoke with Heidi Bergman. And then when he mentioned Walter's name, she didn't know who he was. She's like, "What? What did she say?" She said she didn't know Walter. And then he's like, "Yeah." So she mumbled something, then hung up the phone. So now Thomas is even more suspicious that something happened at this facility, and everybody's being clammy about it and keeping her, tight-lipped. So he goes then and he talks to his boss, his manager. He walks into her office and he walks in on her breastfeeding her baby. So he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I can come back." She's like, "No, I'm finishing up." So she finishes up, gets properly, puts everything back together, and he's like, "Hey, so I talked to Heidi Bergman. Something was kind of off. And I called Walter Cruz's home. A woman answered, wouldn't say much." So his boss is like, she's like, "Well, look, we just close the case. You can't just go by hunches. Is there something more that you want to do to escalate this off of a hunch?" And he got quiet. So she's like, "We'll just close the case." So Thomas agrees to close the case. And, then the next scene we see. So what's cool is what's interesting, they do these scenes. So when they go back and forth with scenes, so if they're showing Heidi Bergman and Walter Cruz, my TV screen, gives me the regular movie size picture. But when they go to Thomas Carrasco at his office in his cube, it vertically closes in, like it's being filmed off of Twitter or Instagram or something. The screen closes in. It's very fascinating. I don't know why they do that, but I like it. So each episode ends. When it ends, it just ends in the middle of the scene. The lights will go dark and you see the credits going up and you might still hear the character going. It's really creepy, but I like it. It's just different. Very different. So the next thing we have is Heidi meeting up with Anthony, her ex-boyfriend, because what I didn't tell you is that when Walter was telling Heidi about his adventure with Schreier stealing that van, he just talks, and she's like, "Well, you've known him for a long time." He goes, "Yeah, we've been close for a long time." It's kind of agitating. She goes, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "You ever go on a car ride or drive? It was and it's just been forever." She's like, "No." He goes, "Imagine you and I are on a road trip." She's like, "Okay, you and I." He goes, "We talk about things, we play some music, maybe play some games, but after a while it gets boring. There's nothing to talk about. We're just driving." She goes, "Oh yeah." And and Heidi plays along with what he's talking about, and her face lights up as they imagine going on the road trip together. And he's like, "You never went on a road trip with your boyfriend?" She's like, "I've had boyfriends, just never a road trip with them." He goes, "Wow." So the next thing you know, she's like, "Oh yeah, that would have been a horrible road trip." But the smile that she gives him, the smile that he gives her, you see there's chemistry. You can tell that she's attracted to him. And she's like, "You never just had your window rolled down and just drove and felt the breeze in your face, And she's like, "No." So on her way home, after speaking with Walter, she starts driving and she rolls her window down. She leans her face out a little bit, just to feel the breeze. You can tell she's thinking about Walter. So when she gets home, Anthony's like, "Hey, we need to talk." And it's just that, and she beats him to it. She's like, "Yeah, we're done. Let's break up. I'm not happy." Well, she doesn't say I'm not happy, but she's like, yeah, you should go. And then she gets a call once again from Colin. We'll talk some more. We'll wrap up Homecoming after this break.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
And once again, you're listening to GSMC's television podcast. It's your Captain Keith, talking about the new hit series on Amazon Prime, Homecoming, with Julia Roberts, Stephan James, and Bobby Cannavale, or Cannavale, if I'm saying his name properly. Forgive me if I'm not, Mr. Cannavale, or Cannavale. I don't know what to say. Hey. Well, so, like I said before the break, Heidi realizes she's ready to break up with Anthony. She beats him to the punch. And of course, she gets the phone call from Colin, because he just calls whenever. And that phone call is a call I was talking about earlier, where he's got the face paint on from his daughter's birthday party. He's got the day off of work to be with his daughter. And instead of being with his daughter, she painted his face. He's outside on the phone talking. And like I said, he missed the whole happy birthday to you. When he gets back in, his wife is looking at him all angry. So he's like, oh yeah, so these guys stole the truck, get rid of them both. And for once, Heidi stands up to him. She's like, no, not going to get rid of Walter Cruz. He's a perfect candidate. He's great. He's a good guy. He wants the help. He wants to be better. We can get great results from him. So no, he's not leaving. And then Colin's like, okay. And then she said the optics would look bad if you got rid of him, which could have been code for don't get rid of the black guy. Or the only black guy there. It may not look good. It could have been code for that. Not quite sure. But she convinced him. And then he starts going on a rant about how he wants to make sure he gets the best results possible. He's not sure. And then he asked her, were the cafeteria workers, did they have background checks before they start working there? And we're like, and she's like, in the audience, I'm like, seriously, dude? And basically she said in so many words, seriously, dude? She didn't say that, but she might as well have. So she's like, no, I didn't think there needed to be. So then Colin's like, well, maybe we should, double up their meds. And she's like, no, breakfast and lunch, no, we can't do that because they'll get agitated. That could backfire if we give them too much medication. So she basically talks Colin down from doing that. So this is the first conversation where Heidi was able to do a little pushback, and it worked. But you could tell that she has strong feelings for Walter. So I'm interested to see where this goes. And that's when the phone call gets abrupted, or she hangs up because he gets busted by his wife, because he's in the kitchen. Everyone's already saying happy birthday to his daughter but him. And he fakes it like he did. So it was kind of funny to see. But yeah, I mean, he's definitely ambitious. He's trying to climb the ladder socially. The first time they called, he was walking around on a golf course with a golf club, bag of golf clubs. And you find out that he's introducing himself to a businessman. He wasn't even invited to the country club. So I get the ambition, and I think it's great that he's got drive and ambition. But listen to the people who work for you. Otherwise, why are they there? So that's my thing with him. Like I said, and listen to Heidi. And I get the feeling that things are going to go wrong, and it's going to be his fault. And Heidi's going to get caught in the middle. And so will Walter. Now, I'll leave you with this. The last episode I watched, Heidi is in the future again. It's in the present. Heidi meets back up with Anthony because, at this point they've been broken up. And they're talking, and she's like, I've been thinking a lot about this. And she's like, I'm sure you're seeing someone. He's like, no, I'm not. Anthony thinks for a second they might get back together, as he tells her, hey, it hurt. I feel like you just didn't care. You weren't interested in your job. And then she starts questioning him about some things. And like, oh, is this what it's about? He's like, he goes, excuse me. He goes, is this what this is about? You want to cover your ass. You didn't tell me anything about your job. You never talked about it. So your secret's safe. And he finds out when he starts to poke at Heidi a little bit, and we find out that she can't remember. She just remembers that he helped her move down to Florida, and she got a job, and then that's it. She can't remember what happened while she was working there. So when she told Thomas Carrasco she didn't remember Walter Cruz, it sounds like maybe she didn't remember Walter Cruz. So now we're wondering, what did Homecoming do to her and those soldiers? So it's not just the soldiers who might have been messed with. I think she got messed with too when something must have went bad and they wiped her memory. That's what I'm thinking, but I don't know. I'll be in episode 4 when I get home. So that's Homecoming, Amazon Prime. Check it out. Starring Julia Roberts, Bobby Cannavale, Stephen James, Jeremy Allen White, and Sissy Spacek. Legendary Sissy Spacek plays Julia Roberts' mom, Heidi Bergman's mom on the show. So it's good to see her too. So check out Homecoming. And they're going to do season 2. So that will be happening. All right, good people of planet Earth, let's talk about FutureMan. Where do I start? Season 2. Let's get into that. So, remember we talked about FutureMan. It's this original TV series off of the Hulu, network. And we're gonna get into season 2 of FutureMan now. So, and this show stars Josh Hutcherson as Josh Futterman, aka Juice. Glenn Headley plays his mom, Diane Futterman, and just found out that she passed away recently. May she rest in peace in real life. Eliza Coupe plays Tiger. Ed Begley Jr. plays Josh's dad, Gabe Futterman. He's great in this show. And Derek Wilson plays Wolf, also known as Torque. Well, we'll get into that in 1 second. So, and season 2 picks up in 2162. And Josh, Wolf, and Tiger learn that their season 1 mission to stop the cure from getting out didn't work. In this timeline, Stu Camillo is now in power, having created the cure and launched a plan to relocate humanity to Mars. A shadowy organization called the Pointed Circle seeks to recruit Josh to take Stu down. But are they the good guys or is Stu? So I'll give you that part of the synopsis. So now going into season 2, some things threw me off a little bit. So I guess, okay, so, we talked about in the past about how I like how we have the ensemble cast now where the other cast members get storylines. You get to know more about them as well as the main character. So it's not just focused on the main character. But I felt like in season 2, there might have been a little bit too much focus on Wolf and Tiger. And not enough on Josh, who's FutureMan. So I like the main character. I like Josh Futterman. He's a nice guy. He just had some really kind of crappy timing. Never really had any focus or ambition. He was spoiled, but he wasn't rotten about it. He knew he was spoiled by his parents, and he knew he should be doing better. He wasn't a jerk about being spoiled, if that makes any sense. When Tiger and Wolf come to the past to pick him up so he can save their future, it does change his life for the better, for the most part. But so we'll talk about what I liked about this season, what I didn't like about this season. So yeah, we'll get into that. So in 2162, at one point, Wolf gets hurt, so Tiger takes him to like this colony, and they see him and they recognize him. And they think he's a guy named Torque. And they don't know who Tiger is, so they're going to give her a test, and this test could kill her. So she just leaves Wolf there with them and just leaves. She escapes, roams the desert. That's when she runs into Stu's people and finds out that Stu is still alive, he's a hologram. And he's got this little neat colony of people, and like the synopsis says, he plans on taking them to Mars because they won't be able to live on Earth anymore. It's not going to be inhabitable. So, and then Tiger finds out that the war still happened, that they didn't save their future, that they thought they were. So basically, Tiger and Wolf come back to a future they don't recognize at all. And literally, Wolf is taken to be someone else named Torque. And Wolf finds out that Torque is married to 6 other people, or 5 other people. That's 2 guys and 3 women. And they have a daughter. So that was bizarre and interesting, very intriguing. As Wolf decides that he likes this new life that he has playing, pretending to be Torque, his lookalike. Torque is a wheel maker, and he makes the money and brings the money home to the family. And they have 1 daughter, and she's like around 14 or 13, and Wolf grows to love her and look at her as his own daughter. So that was cool. Tiger runs into Stu. Stu, you find out, has this huge crush on Tiger, because in the last season, she interacted with Stu, and that helped her to complete her mission, so she thought, and she wrote Stu a note telling him not to go into work that day, and so he kept on. He held on to that, and a huge crush on her, and she finds out that he winds up using some of her DNA to create the cure to real human ailment and frailty, and that starts the war. And lots of people die still. So it's like what Tiger and Wolf and Josh did was like for nothing. So Tiger's upset about that. And then to make things worse, she winds up seeing her doppelganger. And, Stu's like, this is my daughter, our daughter. You need to meet her. And yeah, it's Tiger, but with a purple wig and a really high voice. So it's just, so she's got to deal with that, and she's upset because, she's not with Wolf anymore. And while that's happening, Josh has been kidnapped from the past and brought to the future, and he's being held hostage, and they're interrogating him. But first, they try to get into his head and ask him questions and make him think that he's fine, and that his fate changed in the past, and that his fate wasn't how it was left in season 1. I'm not going to tell you how season 1 ended, so you have to go see that for yourself. But then he eventually realizes, because the minute they mention Stu's name, or he mentions Stu's name in passing, they all start perking up like, "Whoa, tell us more about Stu." And that's when Josh realizes that something's not right and that it's not a real reality. So then he realizes that they're interrogating him, and he realizes that they're like this terrorist group, the Pointed Circle. And he's just kind of miserable. So so all of that was creative and how they wrote all that. I'm not saying that it wasn't, but I did feel like there was too much time spent on Tiger and Wolf / Torque in season 2. Not enough time on Josh. What I don't like about season 2 and what I'm not liking about the show is Josh, aka Juice, is FutureMan. He's the one who helps save the day and bring everything together. But he is still treated like he's a loser. No girlfriend, no love interest. He had one, and let's just say that didn't work out in season 1. And, and that was like a real brief moment. It wasn't anything. And I just feel like, he's a very likable guy who's always getting crapped on. And it's just like, okay, well, why call it the show FutureMan if you're going to spend all your time focused on Wolf and Tiger? Because that seems to be, that's how season 2 felt. That's what I didn't like about it. I felt like, if the main character is somebody that we're rooting for, that we like, I want him to win. Josh is always losing, especially in season 2. It just seems like nothing really goes his way. You want to see him get the girl, and he doesn't. And it just seems like there's also like this whole thing with Tiger and Wolf where they were soldiers, and then their physical intimacy is not really intimacy; it's just charging up. But then you see other scenes with their doppelgangers where where that's not the case. So is it that she's in love with Wolf? Okay, that's fine. All right, but I thought it would have been more interesting if there was like a triangle between her, Wolf, and Josh, or just give Josh a girlfriend. Just saying, someone from the future, someone from the past, don't care. But it's just like nothing goes well for him. We'll talk some more about FutureMan Season 2 after this break.
Want to find out what movies to go see? Then check out the GSMC Movie Podcast. It's your ticket to the latest movies, whether it's a new blockbuster event, romantic, comedy, or action flick. This show has got it all covered. They talk some what to go see now, don't bother, what's hot on Netflix, and everything in between. That's GSMCpodcast.com/movie-podcast. When it's all about the movies, it has to be this new show. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And once again, you're listening to GSMC's television podcast. It's your Captain Keith speaking. We're talking about FutureMan Season 2. So like I was saying, there were things in Season 2 that were funny, and there were things in Season 2 that just weren't funny. I know Seth Rogen is an executive producer of the show, and I felt like some of the writing was just way too reminiscent of his type of humor, and his type of humor doesn't always translate well in everywhere else. Some of the humor was just derivative and just repetitious and just gratuitous. I didn't care for some of it. It was just kind of tacky and not funny at all. So, and the other parts were. So there's some twists and turns in this season that you don't see coming. But like I was saying, I felt like there was just too much time spent on Tiger and Wolf/Torque and not enough on Josh. He just always comes across like he's just weak and not capable, and maybe at the last minute he might have a good idea. And I'm just like, the show's supposed to be about this guy, but you've made him the most least interesting person on the show. And yeah, it's cool that Wolf is like the alpha male. I get that, and he gets the girls. I get all that, but now it's interesting that he's Torque now, and he's got 5 spouses and a daughter. That was cool. And then Tiger finds out that this hologram's in love with her. And then they have an intimate scene that's kind of funny. That was cool. But I don't know. Like I said, there will be a season 3, but I'm just not that excited about it right now. Because like I said, I don't like how they're doing the lead character. It's just, he's a likable person, but not by the way that they're showing him in season 2. I mean, my thing is what does he have to live for? He's got no one but these two, and they're so self-involved in their own little drama and their thing. What's he there for? And yeah. So, it's one thing to have self-deprecating humor. It's another thing to have, making fun of the main character a little bit, but when you do too much of it, it just gets kind of old now. Now it's just not, I feel like it's just not worth watching. Like, I like the first season better than the second. And even in the first season, there were still some things I was like, well, yeah. So I want to see Josh, have a love interest, who's interested in him. Want to know more about Josh. Want to see Josh grow as FutureMan, grow as a spy or a soldier or whatever. Find out what is he good at besides video games. We saw Josh's dad train Wolf to be an expert chef, and we saw Tiger learn more about humanity by living with the mother of the doctor that she was supposed to assassinate. In the 50s. So we saw her become more human. And and get in touch with her feminine side and her human. Well, yeah, I mean, she definitely was already in touch with her masculine side. She got more in touch with her feminine side and her humanity by helping to raise, the doctor that she was sent to kill in season 1. So all that was interesting and intriguing. And even the whole James Cameron thing was very funny. I have to admit, I did enjoy that. So, yeah, so there's some things about it that's funny, but there's other things that are just derivative of season 2. And like I said, too, I just, I want the main character, I want FutureMan to, have some fun. I want him to have, give him a love interest, man, and give him something to be passionate about, that he wants it being good. Let's see him evolve. We've seen Wolf evolve. We've seen Wolf hang out with Corey Hart. We've seen Wolf do all kinds of things. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And we've seen Tiger evolve, and there's some surprises about some main characters too in season 2 that you don't see coming, that you find out about, which is interesting. And we get it. So, like I said, if Tiger's going to be in love with Wolf, then that just needs to be said, and let them do what they're going to do. But yeah, I get tired of seeing them go around doing what they do, and then, like I said, Josh is just the third wheel or just kind of insignificant, and the show's supposed to be about him. So yeah, not really feeling season 2 as much as I was season 1. So we'll see what season 3 does. And like I said, Seth Rogen's humor doesn't always translate well. Some of it I like, some of it it's just the same old gratuitous stuff that's just unnecessary. Yeah, definitely. But that's a Hulu original show, FutureMan, season 2. Was there anything else I wanted to mention about season 2? Let's see. Yeah. Haley Joel Osment plays Stu. He does a great job. Very interesting character. He does a great job in this season. Really, yeah, like I said, the plot, the twists and turns in the plot were great in this show. But the character development for Josh was not at all. No, not at all. And it got to a point where it wasn't even funny anymore. So it's but I will say this though, towards the end, the twists and turns were worth watching. They did surprise me with some scenes I didn't see coming. But like I said, for season 3, I'm letting you know, Hulu writers, Seth Rogen, give FutureMan, give Josh, aka Juice, Fetterman, more meaning. Let him evolve. Let him be the FutureMan that we were rooting for. Because that's like I said, that's my biggest complaint in that regard. So other shows that will be on review next coming up for me, You off of Netflix. And yes, folks, I know I'm the last person on earth to watch Breaking Bad, but I'm gonna dig into that real soon so we can talk about that to see what all the fuss about, what all the hype is. Like I said, I will be finishing Homecoming, so I'll probably be talking some more about that. Season 2 of Patriot, we'll be talking about, most definitely. I have to dig into that. The 3rd season of The Man in the High Castle, I have to dig into that. That's off of Amazon Prime. So is Patriot. Netflix has The 2 Killings of Sam Cooke. It's a documentary. Going to be watching that. I'm probably going to be digging into the what's her Elena Bobbitt story, is that her name? Miss Bobbitt. There's a TV series on her on Amazon Prime. I'm gonna watch that too. So in regards to what else, sorry, give me 1 second here. Just trying to figure it out. Because there's just so many shows to watch. I'm just kind of behind this and that. Let's see. I saw the season finale of The Passage. It's 2 episodes. Pretty good. Oh, by the way, so didn't realize that Stephen James, he played Jesse Owens, and I saw that film. He did a great job. And John Lewis in If Beale Street Could Talk. I haven't watched that film yet, so I'm going to have to check that out. So, yeah, he's an actor on the move. So let's give you some TV news for once. Batwoman is close to making history on the CW. So yes, folks, looks like we're not going to get a Batman series, but we're going to get a Batwoman series. And we did get a glimpse of her off the Elseworlds with Flash and Arrow. Batwoman officially ordered to pilot and close to making TV history. Let's see. The CW superhero show roster could be expanded to 6. Looks like E! News has confirmed the network officially ordered Batwoman starring Ruby Rose to pilot. David Nutter of Game of Thrones, The Flash, and Arrow fame will direct the pilot for the potential series. Caroline Dries of The Vampire Diaries is executive producer and writer on the project. Nutter will also executive produce. The pilot is under the same banner as the rest of the CW shows with Greg Berlanti, Sarah Schechter, Jeff Johns as executive producers. If this goes to series, which most CW superhero shows have done, it would be the first broadcast superhero series starring an out LGBTQ actor as an LGBTQ character. Okay. Rose first played the role of Batwoman / Kate Kane in the Arrowverse's Elseworlds crossover. The official description, armed with a passion for social justice and a flair for speaking her mind, Kate Kane, starring Ruby Rose, soars onto the streets of Gotham as Batwoman, an out lesbian and highly trained street fighter primed to snuff out the failing city's criminal resurgence. But don't call her a hero yet. In a city desperate for a savior, Kate must overcome her own demons before embracing the call to be Gotham's symbol of hope. Let's see. Yeah, there you go. And also, her character, Kate Kane, is apparently Bruce Wayne's cousin. That's what we found out when we first saw her in that Arrowverse episode. So that's very cool. So we'll look forward to seeing that. I have some more TV news for you. Let me give me 1 second so I can pull that up. Yeah, John Cryer has a super new role. Very excited about this. Seriously? Hold on. I'm going to pull it up. The blessing and the curse of technology, people. Okay, let's try this again. All right, so it's not pulling up. John Cryer is going to be playing Lex Luthor on Supergirl's TV series. So let me see if I can pull that up somewhere else so we can talk more about that. Let's see. Let's see. One second. Yeah, it's going to be airing. Okay. So Melissa Benoist's Supergirl has tangled with menaces like Rain, Livewire, Parasite, Toyman, Maxwell Lord, and the entire Daxamite fleet. But how will she fare against the most ruthlessly brilliant villain in the entire DC universe? We'll soon find out as John Cryer steps into the role of Lex Luthor later this season. But if you're curious what the 2.5 Man star looks like as the famously bald baddie, there's no need to wait until then. You can see a picture. There's a picture of him standing through the prison cell, and he looks pretty mean. He looks pretty cool. I'm excited. John Cryer is a great actor, so this is going to be a great role for him. I'm excited to see him do this. As Supergirl viewers know, Lex has been in prison since the series began, which explains the maximum security cell that you see for the first picture of him. Look for Cryer to make his debut in Supergirl's 15th episode this season, entitled "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?" on Sunday, March 17th, this Sunday, St. Patrick's Day. In it, Lex Luthor reaches out from prison to enlist Lena, his sister, Katie McGrath, into one of his plans and will stop at nothing to get her on board, even if that means leveraging the life of one of her friends. How all this will impact or fit into the larger events of the current season remains to be seen, but it's worth mentioning that Lex's mistrust of Superman traditionally has a lot to do with the fact that he's not human. In other words, Lex's opinion about aliens living among us probably isn't too far removed from Agent Liberty's. Could we see the two villains possibly teaming up down the road? That sure wouldn't be good for Kara or anybody. But that's just speculation. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, Lex doesn't trust Superman because he has the powers of a god, as he would say. So he's like, Lex feels like it's too good to be true. He thinks of Superman as being like a demon. So, of course, he's going to feel that way about his first cousin, too. So, and that's cool. Love the show. I like that they're bringing him on. That's going to make Supergirl a lot more interesting. I still think that they should do something about talking about her father. I'm glad that the show is focused on Supergirl and women. I've got no problem with that, but she is Supergirl because she's Zor-El's daughter. And, we need to see that bond and that love that she had for her father, and that connection to her father. There's no talk about that at all. So it's this show is very imbalanced because of it, and I often feel like they've also emasculated her cousin Superman as well. Every time they're together, he's always talking about how she's stronger than him. Nobody wants to hear that. I don't care for that at all. So those are the things about the show that I haven't been happy with, but I am excited to see what they do with this, with Lex Luthor. And then I haven't been happy. They build up Jimmy Olsen just to tear him down. I haven't been happy with that either. So, but good people of the planet Earth and the known universe, you've been listening to GSMC's television podcast. I hope you had a good time. I know I did. I appreciate you all. Thank you for tuning in. And like I said, many more shows to talk about. So we're going to ramp it back up to 3 again when I can. So I'm going to work on that. It's got more to watch. So bear with me. And until next time. Also, once again, I definitely recommend Homecoming off of Amazon Prime. If you've already seen the first season of FutureMan on Hulu, check out the second season so we can talk about that. So you guys can always catch me on Twitter as well, the GSMC Twitter account for television podcast. So until next time, folks. Well, once again, thanks again, and I'll see you somewhere in space.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Television Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.